From your current perspective, what has changed about how you understand about how BNI works now that is different from when you started?
One of the guys in my chapter, he was in our chapter, but he was a chapter success coach for another chapter. When after my membership training that I did, I came in and I said to him, I understand why all these rules are set the way they are, because that you meet the people and you give referrals and you help, and then they think that you're helpful to them and they see you and trust you that you're going to continue to show up. And he was so excited. He was like, yes. I think that was what catapulted me into joining BNI.
Welcome to The Perfect 100, the podcast for BNI members who want to maximize their membership, deepen their impact, and grow their business through intentional networking. I'm your host, Tammy Zurak, a CliftonStrengths coach, longtime BNI leader, and one of the few members worldwide to maintain a perfect Power of One score. Each week, we'll explore the habits, mindsets, and everyday strategies of BNI members who are turning their membership into momentum. Welcome to The Perfect 100, where we help professionals, entrepreneurs, and networkers maximize their connections, track measurable growth, and unlock their potential. We're mainly BNI focused, but I really am going to take us to the next level and give us some opportunities for people not in BNI to have some opportunities to track what they're doing. We'll talk more about that later. But today I'm excited to bring you my guest. We have Carrie Nelson with us all the way from New Jersey, because that's really far away from Tennessee. Carrie is a portrait photographer that I have known for a couple of years now through our photography networks, and we've built worldwide connections on the photography side. So I'm excited to have her here, and she's actually even taken some of my coaching programs. So welcome, Carrie.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, let's dive right into your 45 seconds so people know who you are.
Okay. Hi, my name is Carrie Nelson. I'm a portrait photographer, owner of Carrie Nelson Photography. One of my specialties, I offer headshots and branding to business owners. Customers today want to feel like they know you and trust you before they even might want to work with you. A great headshot, or even better, a set of branding images can help customers choose you faster. My clients, I help them guide them through location and clothing choices, as well as posing and even facial expressions in order to create the best image that tells their story. If you know a business owner that wants to elevate their business online, a new headshot might be the answer. Please introduce me to them. I would love to have a conversation. Thank you.
Awesome. So portrait photography, close to my heart. So tell us all how you got into portrait photography.
It's been it's been more than 15 years, and I have to go dig my notes to say how many plus the 15 years. I feel like many of us, it's when my kids were born and I started wanting to make my photos better. It was something I had younger, but I'm an engineer by training, and I kind of went in that route, and I kept putting the artistic on the side, but I ended up with a bigger need, and things have just blossomed from there.
Okay. And
Yeah.
how'd you find your way to BNI?
So interesting. I was trying to figure out the real estate market. I had a few people with real estate. The first job I did, I spent 14 hours on editing their real estate images, and they're not high paying jobs. They're really, and I'm like, there's something wrong with this. So I went and I met with a realtor trying to ask her how this goes, and she said to me, "Oh, you know what? You might be good to have connections with my chapter." I had no idea what she was talking about. She
Okay.
took me to lunch, and I was like, "Yes, I need to be with people who are business owners, who are excited about doing what they do, and I need to get out behind my computer." So I made that decision pretty quick.
Okay. So somebody who was already in kind of gave you
Yes.
the nice launch pad into it by getting you seeing the bigger vision, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah. And probably they explained it the way they're supposed to, because I didn't get a lot of information.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because I think that, I have a lot of visitors. I'm the by far the person that brings the most visitors to my chapter, and people don't understand the value in brevity. Right?
Yes.
If you try to tell too much about it, it gets people they start backing up a little bit, right? They're like, "That sounds like a lot. I don't know if I can do all that." And they don't it's like trying to sell anything to anybody before they've ever had the opportunity to see or experience it.
Right.
It's
I agree.
less yeah, it's less, it's just a more it's a steeper hill to climb,
Yeah.
when you kinda paint it, because it sounds like when you just start talking about all the things that we do, it's maybe sounds a little bit more, challenging, I
Yeah.
guess, than when you go and you experience it, you're like, "Okay, it just makes sense," right?
Yes. I
So much
agree.
easier. Um, what's kept you involved in BNI? How long have you been in?
So I'm just over 2.5 years.
Okay.
So, yeah, I would say joining BNI, like, opened me up to the networking world. So my group, I don't remember how many people were in my chapter. It was probably in the plus or minus 20. And then I met somebody from another chapter. I visited that chapter. Then there's networking that goes outside of BNI that, we've been told before, if you don't have a network group, make one,
Right.
create one. And I never understood what that meant. Like, how do I get people who want to hang out with me because I asked them to? Like, that just sounded weird.
Yeah.
But it just opened me up to the world of networking.
Okay.
And it's really why I'm still here.
What kinda engineer were you before? I don't remember if
Civil. I was
civil engineer.
civil.
Okay. I'm sure we've talked about that, but I don't remember exactly. So that's a big change from being working for that kind of organization. Were you a part of the city, or were you like, was that an independent
So,
firm, or
yeah, so I was more environmental. We did more consulting.
Okay.
And then I was really still doing some of it part-time while I was learning photography, like a lot of other people. It was all kind of overlapping.
Yeah. Well, and a
Yeah.
lot of people, I feel like, especially in today's world, and especially after COVID, a lot of people did whatever, they work for someone in a firm or, a company, whatever. I work corporate, and they had this side thing that they enjoyed doing and wanted to learn how to do better. And COVID, I think the most businesses, I think that I don't remember what the number was, but the most small businesses ever started happened as after COVID, because we
Yeah.
were all sitting around at home going, okay, I can't go to work. So, and in my case, and I'm sure in your case, we were in lockdown. So I wasn't able to work.
Right.
And so I started taking classes online for food photography, and I took classes on learning how to like baking and making, I learned how to do buttercream flowers. So I actually considered doing baking cakes and cupcakes and doing buttercream flowers as a side hustle.
Yeah.
But
That's
unfortunately, my hands, to do buttercream flowers, you have to have really nimble, and my hands are nimble, but I have a lot of joint issues. So that wasn't
oh,
something I thought would last long term. But, those are all things that a lot of people that I feel like come to BNI potentially are in their second thing, right? Or their third or fourth thing, but it's not, it's their own thing, which is a big difference. And people that go networking often are those people too that they know they need to get out in the world, but they don't have an understanding of how.
right.
And so the BNI kind of answers that for people. And I actually we'll talk later. I have some solutions for people that are not going to BNI, but I want to include everybody. So
Sure.
I
Sure.
have
Sure.
some thoughts around that too. So you mentioned your chapter at the time was around 20-ish when you started. I've seen the numbers, but tell everybody around where you guys are now.
You know what? I don't even, am I 18? You can tell me. Am I
Yeah,
18?
I think you were 15, if I remember right, around 15 people, ish, 15,
It
16, something like
could
that.
be. It could be. I feel like it's been since I've joined, and it may be just the way BNI is, we would get a new member and then somebody else wouldn't renew for whatever
Right.
their reasons are, right? There's
Yeah.
lots of reasons, but
Right.
it was like we're getting bigger, and then a
And we're
few
not.
Then we're not. Then we go back.
Well, it's funny, it feels that way, and oftentimes there's always going to be people coming and going, always, but the stick-to-itiveness, if you will, is in large part due to how the chapter runs. I was just looking at, there's a chapter in South Carolina, they have 183, I think it is, members. It's 180 something, 180 members in their chapter, and I'm like, people think a 30 or 40 person chapter is a big chapter. Can you imagine 180 some people? That's a show.
Yeah.
And that's a process oriented chapter, because you've got to have, everything's got to work well to maintain that amount of people, and also get the
Value.
yeah, exactly, to get
Yeah.
something out of it. So but imagine the commitment of 186 people trying to be in your corner to help you grow your business, which is
Yeah. Well,
pretty
yes, like, that's amazing, but the seconds count in that.
for sure. Well, I went to the US National Conference, not this past year, but the year before, and they did a mega meeting, and there were at least 150 people sitting there, and it was finally timed. It was everything was well oiled. They had done it before, and they recognized how to do it, and you can get it done and there was we finished 10 minutes early. But it's amazing when you work the process.
Yeah.
You just kind of figure it out. So some chapters like that thrive, right? And others struggle. So, in your opinion, what's the difference between a chapter that is really successful and one that treats it maybe more like a social club?
Um, well, yeah. I mean, definitely if it's a social club, there's not as much work getting done. We can, right? And there's not, that's not top of mind. The top of mind is being there to be like, "Hey, how's your week going?" And they might be your buddy. Uh, right? I think I've been, because my area, I don't know the numbers, you may know them better than me, but I have a ton of chapters in my area. I did not realize that when I joined BNI. I joined the first chapter. I wanted to go the first I showed up at the next week and they're like, "Wait, you're back?" I'm like, "Wait, I'm not allowed to be back?" Like, it
Nobody
was
told you it was okay.
nobody told me it was okay.
It's
Turns
funny.
out it was okay.
You're right.
But there's another chapter that has 55 people, there's another one that has 45, and they don't they don't have the opportunity to fill in a little bit more space, where our chapter, I we are not social in the respect that, like, work does get done, but there's definitely more liberty to people speaking out of turn or things like that that just don't happen in a large chapter.
Right.
It fixes itself.
Yeah, it's funny because I think everywhere there are chapters that there's going to be, it's the bell curve. There's going to be some that are, high, the 180 some person chapter to the 10 or under kind of chapters. And the smaller you are, you use the word liberties, the more liberties people take with things that wouldn't necessarily happen in a bigger meeting, because there's not room for them, right?
Right.
You have a comment?
Yeah, and the one that's, like, the big chapter, they still do 2 10-minute presentations,
Right.
right? Like, they get it
Yeah,
in.
they figure it out. Yeah, and
Mhm.
it's amazing, that's when I think I've talked about this before on a previous episode, but the chapter that I used to be in, they were at 40 something, then when COVID happened and we went online, and over that period of time, things changed a lot. Some people joined. There was a previous podcast person that joined during that where we were online. So we had never seen him in person until we went back. It had been at least 6 months that we'd only ever seen him on a screen. So it was really interesting to see people in 3D.
Yes. Yeah.
But other people, we dwindled down to half that size. So you finish a lot earlier when you only have 20 people than you do when you have 40 people. So that extra 20 or 30 minutes that were left, some chapters, they just leave. They're like, or they'll fill it with a lot of that excess stuff that isn't part of the actual meeting. We took the opportunity to take that time and build. we figured out, who okay, we used to be 40 something, so we know that's possible. So how are we going to get back there? And, strategy is kind of one of that's my number one Clifton strengths. As I was like, and I came back as president. So I was like, how are we going to get back to that? And we figured out ways to work through those things and build back. And within a year, we were back to the 40s. So which is phenomenal because that's a lot of growth in a short amount of time. Um,
That's
and
amazing. Yeah.
yeah, I had a conversation last week with somebody who I didn't even know I kind of got called into a meeting where I thought I was meeting with somebody. Well, I was meeting with somebody I knew, but there was something more to the meeting than I knew about. I kind of was, which was really like, oh, wow, okay, this is interesting. It was with the owner of the company, and so the person I know is not the owner, and he's recently gone to work at this company, and it turns out I'm meeting with the owner. The owner comes in. I'm sitting in the conference room by myself, and the owner comes in. He's like, "I think I have a meeting with you," and I'm like, "You do?" And so I was like, "Okay, wonder where, but I'm good on my feet, so let's figure out what we're up to here." And we long into the conversation, we had a really good kind of back and forth conversation, and it's a financial management company, and he was telling me, well into the conversation, we got into networking, and he was talking about whether that works, how it works, etc. And I asked him if he knew about BNI. And he kind of, got a face like there was not a positive face. And I was like, tell me about that. That doesn't look like a positive experience. And he said, it was most people don't know how to network, was his comment. The essential to boil it down was most people don't understand how to network. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, I would go and have one-to-ones with people, and they would take the entire time and talk about themselves, and they would never find out about me. And I thought, well, that's not how they weren't trained properly, right? Obviously, it's not supposed to work like that. But that, in the bigger picture of things, that's what people do, right? If you go to a chamber meeting or you go to anywhere where there's a business meeting where people are talking, is they don't understand that there's value in finding out about the other person. Is everybody wants to talk about themselves, but nobody wants to dig into the other person, and that's where the value is coming in. Join the Art Academy in Memphis. Master the skills needed to create stunning, realistic oil paintings. With expert instruction, you'll refine your craft. Enroll today at artacademyofmemphis.com. I thought it was so interesting because we teach you how to do that in BNI, but not everybody does it. So, do you feel like you were taught a system when you came in? Did you really feel like you understood that, kind of the structure, and did your chapter kind of dive into that with you?
So I'm like the member that on whatever the third second meeting, I'm like, well, I finished my membership training.
Yes.
The somebody, I mean, they're like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, it was only 3 hours. Like, it. So I learned things right away, but fitting it into how it works in our meeting was a little different. And I still don't know. I still try different things. Like you have a one-to-one that's a one pager. That's awesome. I actually filled that one out. There's another one floating around that like generated from Atlanta. That's a bigger, it has the same information. There's just more space to put it in.
Right.
And there's a few of us that have grabbed onto those to say, hey, we're gonna fill them out and we're gonna send them. I'm finding with me is sometimes the one-to-one is such a last minute, like, "Hey, can we meet before the meeting?" Now I've realized I haven't had a chance to send them my form.
Right.
So that is a future goal of mine to get better at scheduling them out a little farther and sending them, because I feel like if I send them, then someone's gonna be like, "Oh, this is what people do."
Right.
Whereas it's not in our culture right now to.
Okay.
And when I was new, I would ask, "Oh, do you use the one-to-one? Because I'm a new kid, I don't know what's going on." And the answer was no, most
Right.
often. The
Yeah.
answer was no.
Yeah, and that culture thing you mentioned is unique to each chapter, right? Is
Yeah.
everybody decides somewhere along the line, somebody decided it was not what we do here. And when you come in, you don't know any different. So if they don't do it here, you don't do it here. But if you go to another chapter where that's what everybody does, then you just think that's what you're supposed to do, right?
Yep.
But the balance of doing those things is what makes your membership successful,
Yeah.
right? And so Carrie mentioned that I have a one cheater that is on the website. So if you go to the Perfect 100 website, on the bottom of the page, there are some downloads, and that is one of them. It's in you all, everybody has, if you're in BNI right now, you have access to, there's the MSP 2.0 training. If you go to the first module, there's a download, there's a whole booklet on how to do BNI basically. And it is in that booklet, and it's on probably 4 or 5 different sheets of paper in the booklet, that one sheeter. The one sheeter's just kind of translated it. It's what we used to use. So you can write it on one piece of paper, and then it's on prints on both sides. So it's just a template for a conversation about how to help each other. And you don't have to send it beforehand. It's a great idea if you do, because it gives people the chance to think about it before you actually meet with them. But if you've forgotten, you just bring it with you and hand it. I have multiples of them in
Copy.
my BNI folder, where anytime I'm going to be meeting with a BNI person, I always just have extras in there, so I can always pull that out, because I sometimes will forget to send it too. I usually will send a calendar invite and attach it, but if I've forgotten to do
That's
that,
a
or
good
just
idea.
if it's on the spur of the moment, I just keep them in my BNI folder, so I always have access to them. And then you just cover it while you're sitting there. So, and
Yeah.
nine times out of 10, they don't have one. So I just go back and forth with them. Okay, here's, what's on my sheet, and now tell me about yours, you
Yes.
know? So it feels
Yes.
that way. So it's really blown away by his comment that, that people don't know how to network, because we actually teach that.
Right.
But that's only if your chapter teaches it, right?
Correct.
Or your chapter success coach, if you're company owned, or your I forget what they call the franchise director consultant. They are typically somebody that knows how to do that, or might be in a chapter that does that, or has oversees a chapter that does that. So you can always meet with that person who kind of oversees the chapter to get some support on how can I do this so I get more out of it.
Yeah.
So can always talk about that, but kind
But
of
I
going back.
do, just
Go
to
ahead.
add to kind of what you're talking about, I think that the people that are in BNI are better networkers in the chamber type situations, or just social, even social ones. They still come out with a goal, for lack of better word, to say, "Hey, this is my name and tell me about what you do." Like, we have been trained,
Yes.
and I feel like we've been comfortable with talking about it more, right? So
Yes.
so
Yes.
I
I love
would
that.
I would push back on that too with him.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll rejoin.
Yeah, I love that, because you're right. I think it's you kind of go into it with a different set of, you have an objective in mind, maybe, because you're looking for people to network with. Where we went to my husband and I make him come to all the ribbon cuttings and all the chamber stuff too, and we went to one last week, and a couple days later, I said to him, "What did you get out of that?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" Because he's not in BNI, and he's not a natural networker, so he's always a good test subject for me. I said, "What'd you get out of that?" And he's like, "Well, it was kind of small. There wasn't really anything going on." And I'm like, "Okay, was there anybody?" And there were a bunch of people there he'd already run into a whole bunch of times at other chamber things, because I'm an ambassador and they are too. The ambassadors show up for all the things. And he's like, "Well, there was this one, that one that I already knew." I'm like, "Okay, was there anybody new?" And he said, "Well, yeah, actually, the people who were having the ribbon cutting." And I said, "Okay, so who were they?" And he was like, he didn't know what their names were. And I'm like, "Those are new people, right?" And then we talked through kind of why those people could potentially be an asset to him and him to them. And he was like, "Okay, I
Right.
get it." But I have to constantly remind him, because that's not his natural thing, and he doesn't see it every week. And I have a different set of objectives. It's that plus, right? Is I'm looking to build my network at a deeper level. So I'm looking for people that, if they're at a chamber event, they're probably interested in coming to meet more people at a BNI meeting. And, whether or not they're member potential or not just depends, but they still want to come and network. So And that's why I have a lot of visitors,
Yeah.
because I'm always
Right.
looking for that. Yeah. So,
And and
uh,
when we go, or like even me speaking for myself, I'm not going just for me. Like, I am going for my chapter, for chapters that I've subbed in that I've met some great people in. Like, there's conversations we have where my brain goes ding ding, I have to introduce you to so and so, right? And
yes.
that makes me happy. That fills my cup, and I until like we're not getting into it, but until rereading my CliftonStrengths, I was like, "Oh, he."
Yes. Makes complete sense when you know what
That's
your
yeah,
strengths are.
exactly. That's not hard for me to do.
Yeah, and that's also I'm looking for that same reason, right? It's because we do have part of what we do at BNI is find referrals for each other.
Yeah,
So, if we're actively meeting new people all the time, then the chances are much better we're going to be able to find referrals and connections for people because I don't know all those people either.
right.
Um, so I've been talking over the last couple episodes about building something for people that are just business people in general. So, and I'm going to speak to it now, just kind of hold it up, but you're not going to be able to see it if you're obviously not watching on YouTube, but it's called the Perfect 100 Networking Tracker because I want people who are not BNI to still be able to have success in building their business and networking. And so I'm going to have this on my website. It will not be up. Well, it depends on when this comes out. It might be up by the time this airs, sort of on YouTube. But if
Coming
not,
soon.
yes, coming soon. I like that. But it gives a lot of different things that people can be, you can measure your success in going to those kinds of events with, and that will help you build your business. It is completely free. And it also includes strengths because this is what I do here on part of the podcast is to help people understand how to build through their strengths, which you just mentioned that once you read yours again, that you started to recognize. And I want to call attention to that, right? Is that when I go to those kinds of events, I'm looking to I'm a maximizers. I have a strategy. Strategy is my number one. I have a
Mm.
strategy that I'm there to find visitors. I'm there to make connections that I can connect people to in my chapter. And I'm also looking for other things. I have a very specific set, but I'm using my talents for how I'm approaching that situation. So being very intentional. And that isn't what a lot of people do, right? Is they're not thinking, I'm sitting in the car before I walk in the door to the whatever event. I'm not thinking about what am I trying to accomplish here? I'm just showing up. Some people are like trying to get themselves out of the car because they don't even want to be there. I have to fight kind of to get my husband to go to stuff because it's not his natural thing. And but he goes because I'm going. So it's easier for him. But if I was just sending him on his own or if he was sending himself, it would be harder for him. So hopefully this will help people.
He might get
Um,
lost, and he might come home and say, "I got lost."
yes, yes. It's funny. I couldn't find it. So I just came back. All right. So let's roll into your power of one and see how you're looking here on the power of one. So you have a total score of 80 that is in the green. You have 15 points in attendance. You have 20 points in referrals. So 15 points is yellow, 20 points is green for referrals. You have 10 points for visitors, that's in the red, 20 points for one-to-ones in the green. CEUs are 15 in the yellow. So what are you most proud about when you look at that?
Um, I mean, I'm most proud that I'm in the green t overall,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's amazing. So you're
and it may
operating.
not be for everybody, but it feels that way for me.
Yes, because that's one of the things that is in your makeup, right? Is you like to measure your success by kind of giving yourself some points, and
Yes.
there aren't. And what struck me is I asked people to send me your PowerPoint because I don't have access if you're not in my area, and you gave me your whole chapters, and it was easy to grab yours because you were at the top. There weren't any other people that were green in your chapter, so what do you think about that in terms of opportunities for people in your chapter?
Well, there's nowhere else but up, right?
Yes.
Like, there's nowhere else but up.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it's hard. I'm the vice president currently in the chapter, so I speak to it often. I think my next thing is to try to do a little bit more one-to-ones just with everybody, just so they can see that, yes, they too can be in the green,
right.
or even we can go yellow, like,
Yes.
it's but. I would
It's a tough
love to
one.
give the Clifton Strengths to my entire chapter. That might right?
Yeah,
That could help, but I just think in general, they don't necessarily see the value of that. For
right,
them, they're fine where they are, whatever that is. Because I would expect if they were disappointed in something that they would tell me. I'm kind of open enough of a person that they would feel comfortable with saying something to me.
right. Well,
It's getting it filled out, I guess, and doing
yeah.
it.
Well, and let's look at your PALMS report. So you on your PALMS report, so no absences. It's 19 weeks of measurement on here. So no absences. 6 referrals given inside. 19 referrals given outside. 3 referrals received inside. 8 referrals received outside. 3 visitors. 51 one-to-ones in a 19-week measurement. Thank you for closed business given 4,390 and 21 CEUs. So I'll ask you kind of the same question. What are you most proud of now that you've seen kind of the breakdown of those things?
Yeah, well, I know my thank you for close of business is not that high compared to maybe some of the construction projects that are just larger in value.
Right.
But the fact that that number, and that's this number, and it's also not necessarily everybody has inputted who, so I know that there's more out there because I know. I just don't know
Yes.
what that, right? Whether it's
Yes.
twice as much or not, but there's more.
Right.
Um, and my attendance, like this spring, the way things worked in this spring, I had something every other week, and it was actually killing me inside to not even be there, but I
Right.
did have a sub.
Yes. Yeah, I
So,
see several subs. So, and that doesn't count as an absence because you had a sub. So the what did you say? The people that didn't. I was like, I want to make a mental note. You said that people maybe are not recording. Thank you for close business, right? And that's so the way I always look at the Palms report is it's a measurement of, it's if you have a business, you hopefully are looking at what's coming in and what you're closing and how much money you're making and how much money you're receiving, how much money you're spending and how much, that's what we're all in business is, at the end of the day, it's about what did we do and how did it turn out? And that's what this Palms report is, right? It is the activity that BNI has set up to say this is what will make you successful if you do these things, and your chapter will also be successful if you do these things. But if not everybody plays, then we don't know. So when I have a chapter that has people who don't input things, um, they're hurting themselves and everybody else because you can't fix what you can't measure.
right,
So and it hurts you because you like to see the value and you want to have and I think you have harmony. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, but you have harmony. And so you want everybody to, feel good about things. And that is maybe we'll talk about how we can influence that maybe in a minute here. But if someone if you show them this and say, I think I've given more than $4,390 over this time period, but not everybody's entered that, then maybe that appeals in a different way, right? Is I think that we're doing better than we look,
right.
um, but it's really hard to know. And, so can we all get more out of this? Maybe by starting with this. I don't know. The people, I don't. So,
Sure.
it's a good way. I think that most people I've showed their personal palms to, or even better, the chapter palms report to, when they see the overall, all the stories come out. Every bit of them. It is like, it's crazy. Every time I've done a training for a chapter and I put the chapter palms up, is you start hearing all the things. There's always things, and it's amazing how many things there are because we're all human.
Just
uh,
when you thought you heard them all, there's a new one.
Yes, there's a whole bunch of them, and, but at the end of the day, we're all here to do business, and,
Right.
and so if I think just showing it to people sometimes can be an influencer because they didn't even know that we were looking, it's like, "Oh, this even exists? I didn't," that and I've got nothing,
Mhm.
compared to everybody else, then that's just some virtue of you didn't put anything in, So, but you have harmony. So let's talk about that. So let's roll into your Clifton strengths. So I'm going to read your top 5. So number 1 is harmony. You look for consensus. You don't enjoy conflict. Rather, you seek areas of agreement. Number 2 is individualization. You are intrigued with the unique qualities of each person. You have a gift for figuring out how different people can work together productively. Number 3 is relator. You enjoy close relationships with others. You find deep satisfaction in working hard with friends to achieve a goal. Number 4 is discipline. You enjoy routine and structure. Your world is best described by the order you create. And number 5 is activator. You can make things happen by turning thoughts into action. You want to do things now rather than simply talk about them. So let's talk about that. How do all of those? So Carrie's did this with me. It's been a couple years. I think now at least a year and a half, if not 2 years
The
ago.
the date says 2003.
Okay, so 2003 must be no, that can't be right. Is that
Yeah,
right?
November 2003.
Okay, you might need to redo it. If you haven't done it in the last 10 years, things may have changed.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry, not 2003. I'm sorry,
2023.
2023. I
That's what I
felt like I
thought.
was saying it right, but no,
Yeah.
23.
Yeah, I'm like, that didn't sound right to me.
No,
I thought it was 20. I thought it was in the last 2 years. So you're
23.
good.
Sorry.
That's okay. So looking at those top 5 now that you've kind of I know you're refreshed so we could talk about them. How do you see those showing up in either your photography or how you network in general?
Yeah, and I went when I first was gonna pull it up, I was thinking, "Oh, I remember them not landing that accurate when I first took it," and I'm not sure if it's just because of the last 3 years that I've had, that it definitely is probably accurate. And then I go into, like, the discipline part, which I would like to get the extra. I know that there's a way
Yes.
to get the next. I feel like I need to see what the next round is,
Yes.
but that discipline part, I think that was what catapulted me into joining BNI, because as a business owner, I'm on my own, and if I don't have clients that I'm working with, I'm either looking for clients or looking for something else, and that gave me structure. And I have shared that with people. Like, I have a standing meeting every Thursday, and, that was sometimes that's the only structure I have all week, depending on
Right.
what's going on. So, and then the harmony, I'm not sure. Sometimes I definitely hate conflict,
Right.
but I'm not sure how I can use that for my positive. But keeping like learning about other people and knowing kind of quickly what they're trying to tell me, I feel like I have a pretty good way of connecting 2 people that don't know each other together, and that's not hard for me to do.
Right.
Sometimes it's hard to get the connection
Right. Right.
just because I think 2 people, like, could be beneficial to each other. There is the challenge of getting them together,
Yeah. Well, and
right?
that's today's world, I think, but
That's our world moves really fast and we're all busy, but I do try to keep up with them as well. Like, I go
yeah.
through my mind of, like, where's my feedback that I haven't heard if those 2 were able to meet, or
Yeah.
so I can't say I'm 100%, things fall through the cracks, believe me, but, I do try to keep up on that.
Well, I find that, it's the why that might be missing, and
Oh, yeah.
you may be doing this, right? But, I know that when somebody introduces me to somebody and they don't give me a why, then I'm less likely to be jumping right
Excited.
on it. Yeah, because I don't know why, meaning, why is this person somebody I need to know? And I'm kind of one of those, I wanna meet everybody anyway, but the why for most people is what when we connect that dots by saying, this person is, I want you to meet them because, and we give that to both parties. I try to email, introduce them, and give those things as, you need to meet this person, and here's a blurb that I think is interesting to the other, and vice versa for the other, for both people, so that they have an incentive to want to reach out to each other because there's a thread, there's some common thread. It's like, I went to the meeting last week. I didn't know. I said I didn't know I was going to meet with the owner. I didn't have a clue that that's what I was there for. And had I known, I wish I had known because I am somebody who would prepare for that in a different way.
Sure.
I might have worn different clothes. I would have whatever, but I'm good on, I've been in sales forever. I'm good on a dime. I can change directions, no problem. And it was actually really fun because I felt like I was back in my negotiating with car dealer days because
That's
I was
awesome.
getting conversation that it was very much a tennis match. He was sending me something and then I would bat it back at him and so forth and so on. But having that connection point would have said, I want you to meet this person because this person is whatever.
Yeah.
It would have been a good thing for me. I would have showed, I trust the person that invited me, even though I was there without that feedback.
Right.
I know that they're a great connector. So no matter where they invite me, I'm going to show up because I know that good things are going to come of it. But they don't always give me the back thought. They're in the moment. They're like, these people, and you need to meet this person. That person knows who I want in my
Right.
network. So
Right.
I just show up and make it happen. And I should have known. Actually, just knowing that, I should have probably been more prepared for the unknown.
Ask the right, yes, exactly. Well, when you said the why, that was the other one of mine, right? The in I'm gonna
Yes,
individualization.
individualization. Yeah,
Yeah, so when I saw that, like, needing to know the why, like, my husband would laugh out loud, tell you, "That's I need to know the why in everything." Like,
yeah,
that's right. I'm a questioner at all costs.
yes,
So, I do and I've had multiple people say that my email has been the best introduction email they've read.
nice.
And I think that's probably in there because, like, I'm answering the questions I would wanna know if
Yes,
you're connecting me. So,
love that.
it's
Love that.
fun. I it's fun.
Yes, yes. Well, and so I was kind of, doing a little alchemy with your strengths. So you've got activator, individualization, and relator, which means you want people to take action. You want those actions to be aligned with who they are, and you have good intuition about what people need. So do you see an opportunity to use those things together with the people in your chapter or maybe in your business in a new way when you think about it like that?
I mean, there's always opportunity. I don't know, I almost feel like I'd like you to give me a suggestion, to be
Yeah.
honest.
So I'll read that again. So you want people to take action. You want those actions to be aligned with who they are, and you have good intuition about what they need. So if you think about, and I think you let me put it in a different way. How do you make that come to fruition in your business? Because I think you're already doing it there. When you have a client, how do you make them how are your sessions unique and different than other people's?
Well, I think I listen to them, and I think I help them work through maybe something they don't know. Um, I and I feel that I'm approachable. That's just like, that's my feeling. I was a sub in another local chapter, and I did my presentation, and he actually chased me out of the room. So funny. I did not meet him. Oh man, I actually met him in the networking. So we did already have a connection, which was an interesting. So he's a hard money lender. He'll be completely fine me telling the story, but he's a hard money lender. And I said to him, like, oh, in my environmental work, I worked for a hard money lender. And he does residential. He doesn't do commercial, but I was on the commercial side.
What is a hard money lender?
So a hard money lender is somebody who lends money when you can't or don't want to go in the traditional route. So construction flippers often use that because they just need a lot of money, but they only need it for a really short period of time.
Okay,
So so throw me this money, we'll make it work, and then I'll give it back to you. But
gotcha.
the interest is high, the terms are fast. There's different things about it.
Okay.
Staying ahead in a world driven by technology is key. At Wisdom Integrators, we don't just solve problems, we create opportunities. Wisdom Integrators, connecting your world, solving your problems.
When I was doing I was doing environmental inspections, and they were for a hard money lender. It's the commercial side. So I'm going in trying to assess their environmental liability if they give them money. So if
Gotcha.
this place goes belly up, are they owning a tank that they're going to have to do remediation on? Like, so that's what I did. But he didn't know that. He didn't know that that was something even in the commercial space. So we had a quick conversation, which was good connection. We're on this. They probably have 45 people in the chapter. Had the meeting, and then on the way out, he said to me, "I need your card." He's like, "I can't look mad." He's like, "I don't really want to say anything, but somebody told me I lost a job because they said I looked mean." And I was like, "Well, yes, we can fix." And nobody wants to be a hard money lender that looks mean. Nobody wants to
Right.
get yelled at. So, that was a job for me, and that was great. And he's happy, and hopefully he'll send other people my way.
Yeah. So you figured out how to give him what he needed by I'm sure you had ongoing conversations about the prep and getting him in front of your camera, how to loosen up maybe his expression and all of those kinds of things. So and I'm guessing you probably dove in a little deeper just based on what you just said with him about what he does and how he does it, because you're not only going to be a client for you, but you probably can help him because he's in BNI, right? Is that true?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so what if you did that with the people in your chapter? Maybe if you took a different tack that way, is could you have a different conversation? Because you already naturally you have individualization. You are in Relator. You already an activator. So individualization is you can pick out what everybody needs without thinking about it. You already know what they're good at and how they can accomplish things. And then Relator is you have satisfaction in going deeper with people. So you know them, you have an inner circle that they're probably part of your inner circle because you meet with them every week and you feel comfortable them. And then the activator is getting people to do stuff. So it's not sitting around. It's like, let's go do it. So could you take those things you already know and individualize for the person that you're speaking to, maybe in a one-to-one, about how to help them move? Because that's where a lot of people struggle. I love an activator because I need somebody, my activator, I don't even remember where mine is. My activator is it's 11, so I'm pretty close to the top there. But and I'll speak to you before I forget, because I'll just say it now. Is you mentioned knowing you want to know the rest of them. If you've only taken your top 5, you've really taken the full breadth of things. You just have to unlock it. So you can go into the Gallup site where you access your report, and it'll have a thing in there that says unlock the rest. So then you can pay, it's I forget what the difference is. It's $40 maybe to get the rest of your strengths unlocked for you, and it's highly helpful to you in what you do. And as a coach, for when I'm doing a coaching session with people, I always want them to have their full 34, because the top 5's great, but you're missing the meat and potatoes. You got the meat, but you don't have the potatoes. With the top 10 are really where you're bouncing in and out of all day long. So it's highly
Right. Yeah.
helpful to know those things. But to go back to the point is your top 3 themes are people. They're relationship building. So, can you think about how you might individualize what they want? Because you want to know the why. So, dig in a little bit deeper with them and see if you can influence some things that way. And you have activators and influencing theme. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. So I've been VP for the past 2 years, and I'm not going to be VP in October,
Okay.
and people laughed at me when I said it, but I'm like, I need to sit on the other side of the room. Like, I need to sit in, like, so I am looking forward to that. Like, this was an amazing experience, and trying to find somebody, even in and out. Every time you meet someone and you say you're the VP, everyone gets that's the
Oh
hardest
no.
job.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes.
And to learn it wasn't easy, but it's not and especially the person I'm going to hand it over to, they're going to get my version of it's not that hard once you
Right.
know what you're doing. But I am a little separated from the little stuff that's going on in the chapter.
Yes.
And I did take the role of mentor coordinator. So that may also help out, right? And once
Yes.
I get the training on that, I would like to expand that a little bit more into where it is, but that's where I'm at with this next year. Not having to run the numbers for everybody, not having to tell them what they are every week.
Right.
Now I can kind of help in a different way.
Yes, I love that, and that's probably a really good space for you to do all those things in because you're gonna have a different, you have a different VP is a sounds more intimidating, I guess, than mentor coordinator. You're if you're coming to somebody from to mentor them, you're doing all the things we just talked about.
Yeah.
Right? You can individualize that for them and you're going to get to know them really well and figure out how to get them to do, help them do the thing. So I love that and you have discipline. So, you might be able to, where that's your strong suit, discipline. Where's my discipline? My discipline is 24. So, I like to create things and then on to the next thing and on to the next thing, so I need somebody with discipline sometimes to shore me up and say, okay, but we need to get this first. You need to
Interesting.
execute this thing and then let's move on because that's discipline is an executing theme. And those are, I have two executing things in my top 10, but I am far more the other things than the executing themes. So, it's good to have a balance. And that's where what you said earlier about, I wish everybody in my chapter would take this because then you could kind of figure out what everybody needed, right? And
Yeah.
we did that in my chapter. Almost not everybody, but a good chunk of the people in my chapter, because that's the seat I hold as, I'm a CliftonStrengths coach. For one way or another, they've taken it, whether it's, I sometimes I'll make that my giveaway when we pull out of the bag at the end or they've done coaching with me, whatever. So enough of them have taken it that we did a session on, because we're going into a new year. We're in August and, the new leadership team takes over in October. And we looked at, as a team, there were a bunch of us at the session and I kind of walked them through how everybody is. And they all walked away with, wow, that was so amazing to understand that this one's strength is this and this one's strength is that. And that's why are we asking this person to do this when their strength really should be doing that, right? And so it makes for a much more harmonious, to tie it all back
Harmonious.
together, um, chapter when we're all working in our strengths. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
I know one of mine, but we all think differently, right? Like
yes,
we think I can do this. That doesn't mean it's easy for everybody else. Like some
right.
other people would much rather do something completely different and they're
Yes.
very good at that.
Yes, and why not work in what you're drawn to, right?
Yeah.
If it naturally comes to me to do something, then why wouldn't I? I will be far more, I'm a coach. I would be far more successful doing something I'm already strong at than to put me into something that I'm not.
Yeah.
I can do it. We all have to do stuff in our business or in our work or in our life that we don't enjoy or are not good at.
Yep.
But we're going to be far more happy and successful when we work through the things that we are.
Yep.
All right. So, talk to me about what habit, belief, or mindset shift has helped you as an individual grow the most in your business.
Habit, belief, or mindset.
Yes.
Um, I feel like it's the like just keep going. Just keep going. And when people are in a spot where they're learning, they're growing, it's all new, we all have this like struggle and
Hmm.
we're all trying to compare ourselves to where we want to be. And I've in this time I've learned that I'm always going to want to be more.
Right.
So that like I'm never going to get to the more part. So just stay where I'm at and just keep going.
Right. Okay. Well, you might get to the more part, but
No,
you have.
yes, but that I keep moving the carrot, right?
Yeah.
So like where I am now, I think is a better version of where I was a few years ago, but the carrot's been moved, so I still want more.
Right.
So so I gotta like live here. That's like
Yeah.
my and you can see it in other people when you're talking to them more so. And then that's when I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta do that.
Yeah, it's a process, right? Is we're, my husband and I were talking about this yesterday because he's teaching me. He has he teaches people how to oil paint, and and I'm
So
a
fun.
coach. Yeah, and I had never painted before, so I posted on my Facebook the first painting I did to the we just finished a block. They called there's different blocks in in the process, and I just finished the second block, and I could put the side by side because I thought it was interesting to see the difference. And you can't see down the line what you're gonna be. You can only take it step by step. And and in that in between those two were a whole lot of learning and a whole lot of steps, right? So, I didn't show up at BNI and understand how to get a perfect 100 until
Right.
many years later. It was a process, and same for all the things. I was a photographer. I didn't day one just because I had a camera in my hand know how to do well with that.
Right.
Right. So I love that. How about a challenge that you faced as a business owner? Give me kind of one of your toughest challenges that you thought, gosh, I don't know what to do with this. And how did you work through it?
Oh, well, I think I'm still working through it.
Okay. Fair enough.
I think for me as a photographer, the challenge is having my potential client or client understand this is going to be worth it in the end. It's sometimes a big ask, and it is more of a luxury item. It's not a requirement. You don't have to have a photo taken in order to do X, Y, and Z. So, right. So I'm not somebody, and even those, I understand those professions still have, you have options as a consumer, but even mine, you have an option to even use a photographer. Like that's my biggest hurdle, is trying to explain the value and the importance and how happy you are going to be at the end.
Yes.
That's where I'm at. Whereas a lot of times, like, and sometimes if I don't get feedback from them, I try to find if I can get feedback. And a lot of it is like the dollars don't match the whatever, right?
Right. The
The two
expected outcome.
images.
Yeah.
And then when I have some, they are so excited, and I can't. That's where I'm at. I want to be like, yes, I want you to be excited beforehand because I know you're going to be. I won't let
Right.
you leave not happy.
Right.
And I don't, right? I
Yeah.
just keep saying that, but yeah.
Well, I feel like that's a testimonial, right? Is that if you have others that feel that have felt that way, and then afterwards having somebody else's journey, and that's kind of actually why I put together the paint you a picture is that I painted. Here was me at day one, and here's me at, after
Yeah,
X amount of lessons, almost a year later, and I couldn't have foreseen that outcome. I figured, I have artistic ability. I was a photographer, I can see light, but I didn't know if I had the technical ability to be able to paint.
right.
And, but had I been shown, and I was, and that's kind of the studio is set up to say, these are kids like on the walls I'm sitting in. We have a shared studio space. I'm sitting and there's a bunch of stuff on the walls that kids have painted that are really good. So I was like, I bought into the dream that if those kids can paint like that, I could probably paint like that,
Right.
but I didn't really know. So,
And they didn't start there either, but
right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. But, the difference between kids and adults is kids are more willing to accept that, right? We as adults do not, like, oh, we just make a judgment and say, I can't do that, or I don't think I can do that. And kids are just like, okay, just teach me, they don't
Right.
know. They don't know the difference.
Can't
They're
do it
just,
yet. I'll do it later. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just for kids, it's the hardest part is just sitting still to do it. So, and sometimes for adults. So, but that's an ongoing thing that I think we all struggle with is, can I get there? And, it's sometimes for me, and I've been doing this in my own business, the end is, I just listened to something the other day. I was listening to a book on Audible, and he was talking about, well, it's the E-Myth, if any, but I'm sure people have heard of the
Oh,
E-Myth.
yeah.
Yeah, and he was talking, and it never occurred to me until he said this, but I've done this with my business forever. Is like, where do I want to go? Where am I trying to head? I'm a goal setter. I'm going to get there. But I never thought of it in terms of, and I've read it before, but it just, sometimes you have to hear it
Sure.
again and again. he talked about doing it for your life and, what is the life that you're trying to design for yourself? And is because we work, we have a business, all the things that generate money and activity, whatever. But what are we trying to really accomplish here? Is if you, I was thinking of my stepson who's in his late 20s, who's, relatively newly married and, building a life. And if I had somebody come to me at his age and say, okay, what are you trying to do? What would the end game look like if you could design it? And I don't know if I would have the forethought to say where I would be today, but I would say, I want to, have animals and I want to have some freedom and some money to be able to do this, that, or the other. I could have probably put some bigger picture stuff into play. The older we get, the easier that is because we know what we don't want,
Yes.
but we don't know what we do want, right? It's,
Sure.
it's really easy to say, I don't want all these things. But when we say all the things we don't want, guess what we get more of? The things we don't want. When we talk a lot about the things we don't want, we get more of the things we
Yeah.
don't want. So focusing on what we do want in our business and in our life and the life piece, I was like, how did that never occur to me that, we need to think about just life in general so if I'm however many years away from retiring, between then and now, what does retirement even look like? What am I trying to work for? What is that thing? So I thought that was pretty cool. All right.
I
So,
like that.
yeah.
Was that on a new release?
It's an updated, revised version of it. Now, I
Okay.
read it. I looked for the book. I couldn't find it. Because I know I bought it and I read it because it sounded familiar to me. And I looked everywhere in my house for it and couldn't find it. It was so annoying. But I listened to it back on Audible, and
Uh-huh.
I looked it up to see, is because sometimes when you buy the ones on Audible, they'll have multiple versions, and you end up with the one that's not updated. And so I always
Yeah.
like to check to make sure I'm buying the most recent one, and that was what I got. So
Okay.
yes. Um, and I don't remember. It probably was in the original one. I just don't remember. All right. So, I talked a little bit before about networking and that people don't actually know how to network. When you think about your own growth, what is one thing that you learned that you wish everyone understood about networking?
Um, that like it's really not just about you, right? It's about everybody, and it's about you learning and meeting new other people and being able to connect other people together. It's not just what am I going to get out of this ribbon cutting,
Yes.
right? That's what I feel.
Yeah, I love that. It's true because I don't think that people have that viewpoint, and that's what I teach that, right? Is that, if you go into it, if you only go into it with how can I help the other person, you will be 100 times farther ahead than if you go into it, what am I going to get out of this? If you never say a word, like the guy I was talking to, he said, they were always talking about them. Positioned the right way, that can actually be just as beneficial as, if I meet with somebody in a one-to-one and all they talk about is them, and I think, okay, they're being selfish, because they are. But if I'm like, okay, what if I can connect them to what they're asking me? They're still hopefully going to be that will come back to me, right?
Right.
Because I've helped them achieve what they were trying to achieve. And maybe that's just the coach in me is and I'm also, like to take things and make them better. But is if I help them, but that's just networking in general. When I go to a networking anything, I'm always asking who they're there to meet because that's my best question is who did you come here to meet? And they're look at me funny like, What do you mean?" I'm like, well, you had an intention, you showed up here for a reason. And they don't really sometimes they just have to think about, oh, well, I didn't actually show up with a reason. I just know I'm supposed to
Thanks for
show
letting me know.
yeah, like I just show up because I'm supposed to go to things like this, I guess, is what their thought was. But if they think about it for a minute and I can help them achieve that then they have a little bit more, they want to help me back. So that's always a good thing. And again, I mentioned the tracker thing, that will speak to a little bit of that. I'll come back to that. More to come on that. But forward looking. So let's talk about the future. What's coming for you in the next year or so that you're looking forward to, do you think? New projects, the new directions, anything new on the horizon for you?
My projects tend to be short term, right? Or kind of like in the next few weeks. So And that's something else I probably need to take a little bit of reflection and see where I can look to the follow further out. But I think we did speak about it already, is
Yeah.
where I'm kind of excited to pass the torch in my BNI chapter to somebody else. We have our treasurer is staying on. He was the first year treasurer. He's staying on for a second year. Kind of the same way he's like using what he learned and now it's gonna like just make his life a little easier. But we have a new president. Our president is becoming VP, which will be a different role for him. And we have a new education coordinator. So, like, I think I'm excited about that. And people don't have to keep listening to me.
Yeah. It does feel like that sometimes, right? Is when you're in the same role for a long time, you feel like, gosh, there you gotta be really tired of me in this. But
Yeah. And I don't, every chapter does it a little differently, but our chapter, we do our commercials in the same direction. And the VP report and the commercials come exactly back to back. So
Mm,
there is a lot of me. And then on the day I'm presenting, oh my gosh. So
yeah, it's full day.
so it's all good. It's all good. But I would say that's what I've got looking forward to now.
Okay.
And definitely my business. I do feel like there's through BNI, I've gotten some momentum. So I'm hoping to grow that momentum a little bit more. But yeah, they're all that short term.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. That works. All right. And I've been doing this thing where the last guest asks a question for the next guest.
Ooh,
So yeah. So, and you'll get to leave one for the next one.
nice.
So the last guest left this question from your current perspective. What has changed about how you understand about how BNI works now that is different from when you started?
I think I understood it with my membership training. I really do. And one of the guys in my chapter, what he was in our chapter, but he was a chapter success coach for another chapter. When after my membership training that I did, I came in and I said to him, I understand why all these rules are set the way they are because that you meet the people and you give referrals and you help and then they think that you're helpful to them and they see you and trust you that you're going to continue to show up. And he was so excited. He was like, yes, right? Like, so I understood it, but I didn't know, especially that day. I thought it was only within the whatever we had at the time, 25 people.
Okay.
Now I know it's beyond that.
Right.
And there is a little club there where even if you meet somebody like when I met you, I met you in Arizona and they said,
Right.
Tammy's a director of BNI. Now, I was only in BNI for 1 week the first time I met
Okay.
you. So talk about like starstruck, right? Like, oh my gosh, there's a director.
That's hilarious.
But, it's a common thing and it's something that shares something about your character and about what you do in your business to say it's worth being in BNI. So for me, that same understanding has just magnified.
Okay. Well,
That's
and
the difference.
you and I spoke earlier, and I think that you also mentioned that maybe you didn't understand it when because I don't think most people do when they first start, is that it's not just your chapter, right? You can build your business through other chapters that don't have, you're kind of leveraging there's lots of opportunities in the area that you are in if there are multiple chapters. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a
So
lot.
yeah, well, and I think that, and I've mentioned this several times in the past on one of the episodes that you just limiting yourself sort of to your own chapter unless you're in a position where everybody has one, you're keeping your opportunities a little more limited than they need to be because you can, even if they are represented, you can still go and meet people, and sometimes your same profession can be a great referral partner for you. So it's always good to get out and see things. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. It was great to catch up with you again.
It was awesome. Thank
All
you.
right.
I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, awesome. And loved having you on. And if you're listening, don't forget, as always, to subscribe. It's a great way to give back to me in exchange for the CEU credit that you just got because you just listened to this whole hour, folks. So you got one CEU. And also, if you are interested in applying to be a guest on the podcast, go to theperfect100.com and there's a button that you can click to fill out the form to be a guest on the podcast. And if you want to flex your own strengths with me in coaching, even in New Jersey, because that's where Carrie is. If you're listening out in New Jersey, I am ready to roll anywhere anywhere you want to fly me. So I'd love to talk to me, or obviously we can do coaching on Zoom. So happy to see everybody, and thank you. And we'll see you next time on The Perfect 100. Thanks for listening to The Perfect 100. If today's episode sparked a new idea or inspired you to show up differently in your chapter, share it with your team. And be sure to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. And if you're curious about your own Clifton strengths and how to bring out the best in yourself or your chapter or your business, head to TammyZurak.com to learn more about building your superpowers into everything you do. Keep showing up, keep connecting, and keep building your perfect 100.